Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Elisa and you're watching the Art Occultist. I hope that you are well. And yeah, I'm so glad to have you here with me today. Today I am speaking about my personal relationship with Hekate based on a comment that I received from a very lovely lady under a post I left on my community tab. And she wanted to know about how I came across Hekate, how my relationship developed, etc. So I thought that it's a good idea to make a video about that, because I think I took down 2 videos that covered that exact topic. The first one was filmed very early on in my relationship, so I was very new to Hekate, so I thought that as I was taking it down, it wasn't as useful as it could be, to be quite honest. And the second video that I took down, where I spoke about my relationship with Hekate, it was very personal, very deep, very raw, and at that point I wasn't doing very well with my mental health. I looked like a completely different person, and from my current perspective, I just didn't want this video to be available for everyone to see at this point. So I took it down. So basically this is what we are going to speak about: Hekate and me, our path so far. If you're new here to the channel and this is the first video that you are seeing from me, I am a spiritual practitioner, professional tarot reader, artist, and a Hecatean devotee. And Hekate is the main face of the divine that I am in a relationship with. I don't particularly like the term working with to describe my personal connection with her, because it's much deeper than a work relationship. It's a devotional relationship. She is my goddess. I see her in everything as everything. So yeah, I am going to speak from my heart. This video is not going to be scripted or anything. I just made myself a cup of coffee. And let's see how it goes. I have my notes and they cover my timeline with Hekate and a few key moments from our relationship and timeline. So just a little backstory, because it's going to be important for the connection that I share with this particular deity. I am a Bulgarian. I live in Sofia, Bulgaria currently. But in 2020, I moved abroad and I spent 3 years living in Austria, Vienna. So this is important for the storyline of our connection. In October of 2023, I moved back to Bulgaria. I moved back with my partner and we started renovating this old apartment that he inherited from his grandmother that passed away the previous year. So she passed away while we were living abroad, and when we came back to Bulgaria, actually we came back with the whole idea to renovate the apartment and start our family here, where in the country that we are both from, and to be surrounded with our parents, our friends, because in Austria we were living a very isolated lifestyle, both of us, and we were not happy. Another piece of background information: for the majority of my life, I've been struggling with mental health issues, depression. While I was in Austria, I had severe panic attacks. I was afraid to go outside by myself. And the isolation, both from living in a new country, having no support systems, plus COVID was going on around that time, the pandemic. I wasn't very well mentally and emotionally at that point, at that time. Now, when we moved back to Bulgaria in October of 2023, we didn't have a place to stay. So we decided to stay at my grandmother's house. Now, this caused another issue for me mentally and emotionally, because my grandmother at this point in time, she was living alone. But prior to that, my father was living with her. He was living with her until he passed in 2021. So my father had severe mental health issues, and he was an alcoholic. He was a very creative person, but those issues and the alcohol distorted severely his perception, how he communicated with people, his whole attitude, personality. Let's say that he was a very sick man. And because he was also a creative person, this addiction and those mental health issues were expressed through his creative nature. And the apartment that he lived in which we moved in with my partner 2 years after he passed away in 2023, the whole apartment was in a terrible condition, meaning that he had painted and collaged on top of the walls in the whole apartment. He wrote his distorted delusional thoughts all over the walls. And basically, it was a external expression of his internal mental health struggles, mixed with a lot of alcohol. So me moving into this space with my partner and my grandmother. My grandmother is a lovely woman, and she also suffered from my father's mental health issues. How do I express that? I was very happy that I was coming back home. But when I moved to this particular apartment in the condition that it was in, being in that environment, seeing the mental state, the emotional state that my father was in his last days, externally expressed on the walls that were surrounding me, this made my own mental health issues worse. And to be quite honest, since we moved to that apartment in October of 2023, until I met Hekate in late 2024, I had the worst year of my life when it comes to mental health, emotional health. There was a period of roughly 6 months. No, it was longer than 6 months, but I was severely dissociated from reality. I was suicidal. I had the worst crisis of my mental and emotional health due to a lot of factors. Plus, the biggest thing was that I was living in this space, seeing my father's delusions all around me. My life as a whole has been filled with a lot of challenges. A lot of my relatives struggled with alcoholism and other addictions, and a lot of them had mental health struggles that were not diagnosed. A lot of them self-medicated with alcohol. And basically my whole childhood, I was observing those things, those patterns, those behaviors. There was a lot of violence, verbal and physical, a lot of emotional neglect. And I promise you, this backstory is important for how my relationship to Hekate developed, because Hekate came in my life basically in my lowest point. So during that period of time that I was living in this apartment, like I mentioned already, I was severely depressed. It was literally the lowest point of my life. On top of that, I developed severe chronic pain, physical pain. I had a lot of inflammation in my body. I was struggling with some hormonal issues from my thyroid gland. I don't know the correct term in English, but I have struggled with thyroid problems since I was 12 years old due to the stress that I was subjected to in my home environment. So those issues resurfaced, and they were very severe. So it was a weird combination between physical sickness and illnesses and my mental distorted space. Yeah. So basically that's my background. Now, when I was living in Austria, my spiritual practice was mainly focused on Hinduism and the Hindu pantheon. I was in a devotional relationship, first to Kalima for a little bit, and then Lord Ganesha came to the forefront of my spiritual practice, and he was the main face of the divine that I was engaging in. While I was going through, let's call it my dark night of the soul, I don't know, because I don't think that YouTube will like if I continue use terms as suicidal period, etc. So let's call that period of time between me moving in my grandma's apartment at October 2023 until the moment that Hekate showed up, which was in August of 2024. Let's call this a dark night of the soul period for the sake of ease for this video. So while I was dealing with all of those things, living there, my practice with Lord Ganesha wasn't supporting me. And my spirituality kind of fell to the background of all of the things that I was dealing with, which is I think that's normal. I don't know. Nothing in that period of time was normal for me, let me tell you this. So basically, in August, early August, at the beginning of August, I was full with despair, with lack of any sort of clarity. I didn't know what I was doing. I felt that nothing is worth it. I felt that life didn't have any meaning for me, that I was seriously considering ending everything, let's put it that way. And then I don't know where this thought came into my mind, but something in me was like, do a ritual and ask Hekate to come to you, in a nutshell. It was weird because, like I said previously, I've had a very dedicated focus on Lord Ganesha. From the Greek pantheon, I didn't have interest. I simply didn't have any interest. I never had any interest in developing a close relationship to any of the Greek gods. So this thought, I knew that it wasn't coming from me, because first, I never had any serious connections to the Greek gods, goddesses, none of that. I've worked with Aphrodite for a particular love spell, but it was 3 years earlier. It was even before I moved to Austria. So this was my only connection to the Greek pantheon at that point in time. So I knew that this thought of reach out into the void and ask Hekate to help you, in a nutshell, was not coming from me. Plus, I didn't have interest in anything at this point in time due to my depression, to be quite honest. So I decided, for whatever reason, I said to myself, you have nothing to lose, so you might as well follow this. So one evening I sat down, I took out a piece of paper, I lit a candle, and I wrote a letter to Hekate, explaining my situation, basically saying everything that I've been dealing with, my whole life story, all of those things. It was an extremely, extremely emotional act. And I ended the letter with basically saying that I don't know why I'm doing this, I don't know why I am reaching out, but if you could respond, it would be amazing. Those were not my exact words, but it was something in that sense. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I was dreading waking up every morning throughout this period of time. When I was going to bed at night, I had only one wish: not to wake up the next morning. It was severe. So after this act of reaching out to Hekate, a few days passed, and another important thing, I didn't change anything else in my life. I was still living in that apartment. Everything else was the same. I was struggling both mentally and physically. I didn't have the willpower to go out there and ask for help or to go see a doctor. Nothing else changed in my life. I didn't make any changes in my life. I only reached out to Hekate, and this is very important for me because a few days passed and I started waking up without that dread of the day ahead of me. I started improving, and it truly was like some divine intervention. It feels very strange to say this, but there was nothing else in my life that changed rather than me reaching out to Hekate. And just a few days later, things started to improve for me. So there was no doubt in my mind that she was the one responsible for this improvement. And I cannot take the credit for that because I know my situation. I know where I was. I know that I didn't want to live. I know that I didn't care about anything at this point. I know that I didn't reach out to my family. I know that I didn't seek professional help in any capacity. The only thing that I did was write that letter to Hekate. And then everything started to improve, and it was in a matter of days. Slowly and surely, my motivation started to come back to me. I really started to feel lighter. I started to feel and see my life with clarity, and it was bizarre to me. I found myself being inspired to engage in spiritual work once again, and for the majority of my life, spirituality was one of the things that was most important to me. Even during crisis and depression, spirituality was always something that was important to me. So this is how my story with Hekate started. So after those first initial few days, I decided that it's truly her. This is happening. And I created a altar space to honor her. And I made it a goal to honor her every Monday, because I was still not quite myself at this time. Things were improving, but yeah, I decided that one time a week will be okay for now, as I'm getting back on my feet. Another thing was that during this dark night of the soul, I was without any job or financial security. This was also an important information that I missed out on. So as I was developing my relationship with Hekate, my desire to return back to reading cards for clients also returned. So Hekate truly helped me, and like I mentioned, I cannot take the credit for anything that changed in my life because I didn't do it, and I know that I didn't. And I know that it was her because there's no other explanation. So in a nutshell, she saved me in more ways than one. So next, what happened next? I wrote this letter on August 12th, the 12th of August 2024. The whole renovation of this current apartment that I was living in, that I am living in right now, it was nowhere near complete, and it would have taken much longer to complete it in order for it to be a livable space. But as I was working and getting to know Hekate, in early October of 2024, it was the October 15th, so roughly 2 months after my initial contact with Hekate, I moved to this apartment and it was livable. It was not finished, but it was livable. So this sequence of events, I can also see her hand in the fact that we moved here in this space much earlier that it was prognosed. I don't know if I explained this correctly, but I think that she knew that if I stayed in that environment, in that apartment that I already described to you, how it looked like, how it felt, the energy of that space, it was heavy. It felt heavy. It felt oppressive. And looking back, no wonder why I felt so badly while I was living there. So basically, I can see how she had a hand in getting me out of there in those short 2 months of us being in a connection to each other. And for people who are not spiritual or who don't engage in spirit or deity relationships, the things that I'm currently speaking about may sound bizarre to you, but I don't really care at this point in time because I lived it and there's no other explanation. Just there isn't. So yeah, in October of 2024, we moved in this space that you are seeing right now, that I'm staying in. And my relationship with her started to get deeper and deeper. I was still struggling, but things were starting to improve. In November of 2024, it was the 3rd of November, I got a hair appointment, and the intention of this hair appointment was to get rid and to break from the heavy energy that I was in the previous year almost. So I cut my hair really short. I was having almost boyish hair. It was a really short pixie type of hairstyle. So this is important because hair in spirituality, in spiritual, hair holds memories, it holds energy, and I needed this energy to be as far away from me as possible. So I cut it all away, basically. After we moved here, I had a lot of challenges, but I started seeking help in terms of my physical symptoms. I went to different doctors and I started treating myself better. And slowly but surely, I recovered. It was a long recovery period, but now I can confidently say that I am on the other side, and I've never felt such peace within myself as I do nowadays. And the credit goes to Hekate completely. Okay, so the next date that I have that's very important to me is March 26th of March 2025. Last March. I made a, no, it's not made. I performed a dedication ceremony where in a ritual setting I invoked or invited Hekate into my space. I dedicated a specific altar just for her, and I actually dedicated myself as her follower. And I was like, this is the most profound change externally that I have experienced in all of my years on the spiritual path. My experiences with Hekate were the most tangible and the most undeniable spiritual experiences that I've ever had. And I've been on the spiritual path since 2009. So that's a long time. So I decided to actually dedicate myself to her formally, and she became the primary face of the divine that I am connected to. Previously, I've worked with other deities. I mentioned Kalima, Lord Ganesha, and even though those relationships were deep, there was no formal dedication on my part. With Hekate, this is the first time that I formally dedicate myself to a deity, spiritual being, if you will. So yes, that was my dedication. It was a simple ritual. It was very personal, once again, very emotional. And I took my time to express my gratitude for the improvements of my life. And basically, I do it on a regular basis nowadays. So soon after this dedication ceremony, I began experiencing a pull towards Hekate. It was like Hekate wanted me to do something. It was a deep inner sensation, a knowing, if you will, that I need to sit down and I need to have a conversation with her. So I did just that. I pulled out my tarot cards. This was a more significant reading for me because I created a ritual space around this whole reading. And usually when I read cards, I don't do the whole shebang with rituals, etc. I keep it more casual. But I don't know why for this particular reading, I felt that it needed a more sacred container, if you will. So as I was conversing with her, I felt that she was placing a request, and the request was basically she was calling me to the priestess path, to be a priestess in her name. I simply said, I'm not sure. I thanked her for the trust, for the request. And for a few weeks after that, I was researching priestesshood, what it meant to be a priestess in the 21st century. I was reading a lot of things. I was looking a lot of things on YouTube, online. And to be quite honest, I didn't like what I was seeing. A lot of the things online that I saw connected to priestesshood were connected to Mary Magdalene and that lineage. It didn't resonate with me. And the other part was that a lot of those people that I was seeing online claiming the title priestess, they didn't feel authentic. There was some weird feeling in me when I was looking at them, when I was perceiving them speaking about the priestess path, something felt off. So I made the decision that I don't want to be associated with that. I didn't like it. It didn't resonate. Let's put it that way. So I reached out to Hekate. I explained my reasoning, and I said that I'm not comfortable with engaging in this and calling myself a priestess. Okay, my dog just puked. Be right back. So basically, this is the life when you have a dog. You clean puke. Yeah. I don't know where I cannot remember what I spoke about. Let me catch my breath. Yeah, priestess path, my priestess calling, if you will. So I refused that because I didn't want to be associated with the people that was calling themselves priests and priestesses, and their whole energy just didn't resonate with me, what I am about, etc. So instead, I suggested to her that I will start doing collective readings in her name, channeling her messages and putting them on my channel so that the lost people can find them, and hopefully her influence can reach people in need, lost souls, because I knew what it was like to be lost. So this is how I actually returned to YouTube, because I had a period of time as I was going through my dark night of the soul, and the beginning of my relationship with Hekate, that I was not on YouTube. I didn't plan on being on YouTube once again. I didn't want to do YouTube anymore, to be quite honest with you. So yeah, I returned to YouTube because I spoke to her, and we agreed that I would be doing this type of work for her. And I tried a bunch of different modalities. I had a weekly reflective practice as well. I did a bunch of experimental things to see what exactly will fit, is going to be a good fit, both for me, for how she relays messages, as well as what is received well from the people. YouTube didn't like that, because prior to that, my channel was the Art Occultist. As a channel was based on my personal ruminations on spirituality, deck collecting, and those types of topics. So me adding in collective readings, it messed up the algorithm, and basically YouTube didn't like it. So I was struggling for a while to figure this whole thing out, and it took me a while. So this March in 2026, a year later, after my formal dedication to Hekate, I opened my second channel, the Liminal Oracle. If you are not subscribed to that channel, I suggest that you go check it out. This is the place that I will be doing my oracular work for Hekate. This is the place where it is dedicated to this type of work of spreading knowledge and wisdom from her and helping other people, hopefully helping other people. So yes, this is pretty much the timeline of my relationship with Hekate, the key major points. To sum it up, she really had a profound influence over my life, not only spiritually, but she quite literally is the reason that I am still standing here. She is the reason that I am alive. She is the reason that I returned to YouTube. She is the reason that right now I have a profound clarity about what I want to do with my life. And guys, I am almost 30 years old. I'll be 30 in September this year. My life has always been a struggle, a mess, very unhealthy in terms of my environment, all those other things that I touched upon briefly. And I had a lot of ideas what I wanted to do, but to be quite honest, I never thought that I would pass 30, if you know what I mean. And now that my birthday is around the corner, I don't know, my relationship with Hekate, she guides me, truly guides me. She gives me meaning, she gives me purpose, and she gives me clarity and peace. And my spirituality changed significantly after she stepped onto the scene, I don't know. I became more confident. I don't care about other people anymore in terms of their opinions of me. I don't care if people judge me. I don't care if I don't speak perfectly. I don't care about being perfect anymore, which was an issue that I struggled with my whole life. I understood so many things about the fact that I've been carrying wounds and hurts that weren't mine to carry. I learned so much about what I actually inherited from my parents in terms of emotions, behaviors, thought patterns. And I have this clear understanding and almost like a bird's eye perspective of my life. And I feel that through this whole process and through her help, I've integrated so many, so deep spiritual truths within myself that I honestly can say that I am not the same person that I was before she came along. I am a completely different person. Like sometimes I look at myself and it's like I'm seeing myself for the first time. And I still struggle with certain things because I am a human, and all those struggles from my past, they have long-lasting effects on my health and on my mental health as well. But it's like it's almost like I've been reborn in a sense. I know that that's a weird expression. It's very weird experience. I don't know if any of you will understand actually what I mean or resonate with what I'm saying or my life story. But I'm not actually here for that. I am no longer looking for approval, understanding, and for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm okay with everything. Like I am me and I am enough, and it's great. I'm great. And yeah, it's a very weird experience. And I truly believe that my life up to this point, and especially the last year, that dark year, the dark night of the soul that I called it earlier, I feel that all of those things were supposed to happen, that they were a initiation for me. And now that I have found her, I don't know, it makes me emotional, honestly. It makes me feel that I am finally home. Like she is where I am supposed to be. And I still have connections to different spirits and entities, but the more time passes, they feel distant, more and more distant. Like I am, like, it's almost like she is absorbing me within herself in the spiritual context. And I understand that this body and this life is simply an emanation of her energy. And I have a purpose. I may not know what the future holds, because nobody does, let's be honest. But I feel that this is it. Like, I don't know if you've ever experienced this feeling of knowing that this is it and there's nothing else for you. Like, this is it. So yeah, this is where I am at with Hekate. These days I have a daily devotional practice. Actually, I've had a daily devotional practice since my dedication ceremony in March 2025. I've skipped maybe a few days due to reasons, but for the most part, every single day I give her offerings. Every dark moon, I give her food offerings and some other items. It's very intuitive. To be quite honest, I've done my research on her mythos. I've read a few books. I've listened to the UPG of other practitioners. But what leads my practice is my connection to her, my personal connection with her. And in terms of offerings, of things that I do, of rituals, of how I perceive her, it's mainly through my connection with her. History and mythology and cultural context is very important, but to an extent. The more important part of the equation for me is the fact that deities and spirits evolve with time, just like you and me evolve. And it doesn't make sense for me to worship her as somebody from antiquity. It makes absolute no sense, because my daily life, my experiences are of a person living in the 21st century. And Hekate and all other spirits and deities, they evolve. So your personal gnosis with them is as valid as the mythology and the history that you are reading. So I see this huge discourse in the spiritual community of people that are eclectic or that follow their UPGs just like I do, versus reconstructionists. Both approaches are valid, but I don't see why there is tension. Just let people practice the way that they want to practice. Of course, being respectful to the culture that their deity comes from, but rather anything else than that, it's not a necessary thing to create a conflict around those things. So this is what I do with Hekate personally. Every single day I tend to her altar, I tend to her, I speak with her, I write her letters, I do divination for myself with her. I switch her altar regularly because I want it to be clean and fresh. And in a sense, I've taken the priestess role that she offered me. I consider myself to be a priestess of Hekate, but this is a more personal thing for me. I don't profit from calling myself a priestess. I am her priestess, and it is between me and her in this personal space, in this personal relationship. And as a priestess of her, I complete tasks and requests that she places on me, and some of them are connected to the collective, and the liminal oracle is a part of that. It's a very important part of my devotion to her and my priestess path with her. But you are not going to catch me calling myself priestess on the internet with the desire to promote my services, because I don't believe in placing myself between her and anybody else. I am simply a messenger. I don't initiate people in her name, because that's something quite personal, and that's something that she will do for you if you are supposed to be with her. I don't perform rituals for the collective for the same reason. And the liminal oracle is a space where I convey messages, and I have complete trust and faith that those messages will reach the person that they are meant for. And my public work for her ends there for now. I don't know for the future, but I am pretty sure that my priestess path is something personal, just between me and her. It's not something to promote, it's not something to use, it's not something to make money out of. And it's quite different than what I saw while I was doing my initial research around priestesshood in general. So I think that that's everything that I wanted to say for this video. I don't know when I'm going to post it, but I feel that I'll do that soon. I hope that you enjoyed my story. I hope that it was useful to somebody that is just starting out on the path. And if you are a person in experiencing a dark night of the soul, just like I did, I just want to let you know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and please don't give up, because there is a greater purpose for you to be here. You may not see it, but trust that there is. And please don't do anything radical. So yeah, my name is Elisa. This was my story with my matron Hekate, the great Titaness. Yeah, I hope that you enjoyed it. I will see you in the next one. Take care.